Hi and welcome to This Is Your Life. Well, this week we're surprising royalty, football royalty. Born into a sports-mad family, all he wanted to do was play football's top grade. And he certainly did that, and how. He not only went on to captain his club, state and country, but is today regarded as one of the greatest footballers in his code of all time. These days, he's part of the news team here at Channel 9, and he thinks he's about to take part in a station promo, but it's all just a setup for our surprise. So, let's do it.
Okay, and turn over. 3, 2, 1, and go. Action, everyone come in.
Nice smile, Will. Wally Lewis, this is your life.
Thanks, mate. It was a good guess.
It was a good guess.
Hook, line and sinker, I think it's called.
And thank you to Bruce and Gillian and all this whole thing has been set up. And I know you weren't too fussed about the promo, were you?
Even the 9 guys that held up and made sure that all the sun was in our eyes. Just
So you looked your best.
Thanks, mate.
It's an awful feeling, isn't it?
It is, especially when you feel like you've been made a complete fool of, and there's a great crowd that are going to say, we saw that bloke make an absolute idiot of himself there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wally Lewis. Well, there are a lot of familiar faces here for you tonight, including a very furry little specimen up the back here. G'day, Agro.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Wally. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I'm here to celebrate Wally and pay tribute to the King. Everyone bow to the King!
Wally, there are also a number of other Queenslanders here tonight to pay homage to you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Hayley Lewis, Lincoln Howes, David Fordham and Dick Tosser Turner.
G'day, Lincoln. Hi, darling. Thank you.
Hayley, as a swimmer, you've always idolised this bloke, haven't you?
I remember when I was 10 years of age and Wally and I literally lived 50 metres apart from each other. And I said to Dad, I really want to wear Wally Lewis's jersey at a swimming meet. And he said, well, you go down and get it then because I'm not coming with you. So I went down and knocked on his door and he said, what do you want? And I said, well, I just wanted to know if I could borrow your jersey. And fair enough, he said he was more than happy to give his jersey with the Lewis on it. And one of the proudest days of my life.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
And Lincoln, you share something special with Wally too.
Well, I worked with Wally many years ago at Channel 10. I was the police reporter and Wally was just starting out.
I didn't have anything to do with it there. I wasn't under arrest at the time, I've got to let you know that.
Well, Wally was learning to read the sport. And I was very flattered at the time that Wally and his wife Jackie named their second son Lincoln. I don't know if it was after me, but liked the name anyway, enough to name Lincoln
Really?
Lincoln.
Yeah. And David, as a senior sports broadcaster, you guys are very close, aren't you?
Very close. He, like naming the son after Lincoln, modelled his haircut on Dick and mine. So, yeah, we go back a long way, Mike.
Dick, you were Queensland State of Origin manager for many years. Where do you rate this bloke?
My relationship with Wally Lewis is a special friendship that I've been able to share with Wally and his family. Before Wally was a great player, when Wally was a great player, and still today, after Wally was a great player. And that's about as special as it gets for me. Wally Lewis put the grunt into it's great to be a Queenslander.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great ride, mate.
Thank you.
It's been a great ride, mate.
Hey, special. Wally, take a seat, mate. Take a seat. Walter James Lewis. He was born into a sports-crazy, working-class Brisbane family on the 1st of December 1959. The eldest of 5 children, to June, a state netballer, and Jim, an ex-first-grade footballer. And right from the start, your destiny is football, and always with plenty of family support from the sidelines?
Kick, Blondie.
It's your mum, dad and the rest of the family. That's it. James. June, who's Blondie?
Well, when we used to go to the football games, I wanted to be able to talk to him on the sideline, and I didn't want them to think I was one of these fanatical mothers, so this was my way of calling him Hi Blondie.
But I think I've got to bring up the point that she always used to like bringing up, that saying of hers, but I don't think I've ever been so embarrassed on a football field. I was over in England in 1986, standing there ready for a kick-off of the first test, Australia versus Great Britain. We were a little bit nervous, and I'd just been talking to Gene Miles about, you know, what we were going to do. The kick-off, the national anthems had been on, and there we were. I just lined the kick-up off, and I heard this bloody, "Come on, Blondie," you know. And I had no hair left at that stage anyway. So I certainly knew who was there.
Jim, you always knew that Wally had something very, very special, didn't you?
Well, excuse me if I break down a little bit, but...
It's all right.
No, Wally was...
The only other time I've seen you crying is when you missed that putt on Friday. It cost him a fortune. I'm on his side. I wanted to wrap the 3 wood round his head, I can tell you.
But, no, I always thought Wally had it. And when he was born, I put a number on his back, which was number 8. He finally played that for Queensland one game. But I knew he was going to make it. Everybody reckoned I was crazy. All my friends thought I was mad, but I said, he'll be there. And
he was.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of him, like all my kids.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Well done, Gator. How about we not shaking up? Wally, you play your first game of league at the age of 6, and soon your remarkable ability to read the play, attack and defend are obvious. At 11, you're representing Queensland for the very first time and win. But you also excel at rugby union, cricket and surf lifesaving. Academically, however, you're pretty average at high school and anything but the headmaster's pet, particularly in the final year of school, true?
Well, I don't think I was his favourite for the previous 4 either.
Oh, okay. The first of many pinnacles for you comes at 17, when you were selected for the Australian schoolboys rugby union team to tour Britain. Now, that undefeated side will always be known as the Invincibles.
Congratulations, Wally. It's a great honour, mate, and we wish we could be there with you.
Yeah, well done, Wally. It's a great honour, and you deserve every bit of it.
You don't deserve any of it. Well, if it wasn't for 3 little black fellas to help you along the way, mate, you wouldn't have got there. Right, mate. Have a great night.
Wally, you return to league, first with Valley's club and then with Wynnum Manly. In this game, your larynx is paralysed. Well, you're 20 when league launches State of Origin in 1980. After years of one-sided New South Wales victories, Queenslanders are now allowed to play for their birth state. And you carve up the opposition alongside the likes of Mal Meninga, Gene Miles and Trevor Gilmeister.
Hello, mate. How you going?
Mal, if we could start with you, where would you rate Wally in the world of league?
Mike, in respect to all the great players I've played with, he's certainly the best. Certainly the king of the bus trips as well.
But he likes driving, doesn't he?
Oh, he likes driving, yeah, certainly does. He takes control and he's got half the bus in hysterics and half the bus fearing for their lives, basically.
And Gene, there's always been a toss-up between you two. Who's the fastest, is that right?
Oh, Mike, that was never ever a contest, on or off the field.
And Gilly, you've been with him where things got a bit reckless too, haven't you?
Yeah, I was only a young fella at the Rush Cutters Bay down in Sydney, and Wally used to like to kick the footballs back in after the training session, and I was with Tosser, Turner's in the middle, myself and Fatty, and Wally kept kicking the footballs in. He's hit the power lines. The power lines have come together, boom, they've come down. It could have killed half the team. And I've knocked poor old Tosser over. Fatty stood on his back, and we just was every man for himself. So we're lucky to be here, actually.
Fellas, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
G'day, Wal. It's your two-headed mate from Ipswich, the Gimp, or whatever else you used to call me. But, mate, what a great time I did have playing with you. Coming from Ipswich to play with one of the greatest players ever to lace on a boot, it was fantastic. And the skills I learned off you and the way to read a game is probably one of your biggest attributes. So to Wally, you and your family, have a great day. I'm sorry I can't be there, but I'll be thinking about you, and you deserved everything you get. All the best, mate.
Hello, King. How are you, mate? Hope you're having a great night. I first met you about 30 years ago. We've become friends then and have been ever since. It was great to play alongside you and against you all those years. You're an inspiration to a lot of people in Queensland, especially us rugby league players who played with you, and your family and mine have been very close over the years. You deserve this night tonight. What people probably don't know about you is your sense of humour. In the camps for Queensland, Wally's favourite trick was to usher you downstairs and say, "You've got to get on the bus, boys." He'd get into your room and he used to leave little presents for you in the toilet. A couple of hours later, not too good. Wally, have a great night, mate. You deserve it. Love you.
Wally, at 21, you buy a delicatessen with your mum to supplement your income from football. Then you fall for a young woman who stands out above all the rest. Only problem is, she's not all that keen on you.
Why would you want to go out with me? You've got Miss Australia chasing you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful Jackie Lewis. Now, Jackie, why weren't you interested at first?
He had many women chasing him, like even Miss Australia. Everybody wanted to go with him. And then he kept sending me flowers every week. And eventually he sent me about 5 dozen and won me over. I had to get trucks to bring them home.
And of course, your wedding night was very different too, wasn't it, Jackie?
We had a beautiful wedding night. It was a lovely night. And then we went back and to the Sheridan. We had a great night. And about 3 o'clock, I think, that morning, he woke me up to Mark Ella playing against Ireland on the TV to wake up. Mark's made a try. So Mark's always been part of my life.
Jackie, please take a seat with Wally. Thank you. Wally, during the 80s, you and Jackie announced the births of your sons, Mitchell and Lincoln. On the football field, you're at your peak, playing 33 tests for Australia. And then every year for 12 years, the rugby league world stops. Not only for State of Origin, but to watch the King weave his unbelievable magic.
Lewis makes his way upfield. He's got some pace. Lewis, can he go all the way? Still going. He does so. Wally Lewis has gone in. Look at this.
Each series is likened to a civil war, and even your greatest rivals at the time are still in awe of you. Rivals just like Parramatta's Peter Sterling. Peter, how would you rate this bloke?
Well, it's nice to see the front of him because most of my career I only ever saw the back of him, so this is a pleasant... Look, in any sport I think we know that the word champion is overused or misused, but in rugby league we haven't had that many, and he is definitely... he's the best I've seen. And important to our game too. For people living in Western Australia, Victoria, they know Wally Lewis, they know his exploits, especially at State of Origin level, and that's been invaluable to our code.
Yeah. Any good juicy stories you can tell us about him?
I think it's important that people know that he's a great player but can also be a dead-set lunatic as well. And you heard the minibus mentioned earlier. We were driving home from a training session. He was always the designated driver. And we're driving home down Allison Road behind Randwick Racecourse, doing 80 kilometres. I'm 3 seats back and Wally's driving the bus, and the side door opened. So doing 80 Ks, he just got up out of the seat, walked back, closed the door, and then walked back and sat in the seat. And I was shattered. I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, but it was good preparation because we were playing a test against the Kiwis that weekend. Whatever they threw at us, it couldn't have been as scary as what I'd gone through. And needless to say, if he ever offers me a lift these days, I politely decline.
Peter, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. In 1990, your beautiful daughter, Jamie Lee, is born. Just after her first birthday, you and Jackie learn she's profoundly deaf. You're initially broken-hearted, but decide family comes first. So when you run out onto the paddock for the third 1991 State of Origin, you know it will be your last. The King then announces his abdication.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I've got a little girl to look after now. I love her very much.
No regrets for retiring?
No, none at all. I had a decision, and I think it was one of those that it was made in the space of about 10 or 15 seconds. I walked in just before the kick-off, and I went in. I saw Dick Turner, tosser, and I just said to him, "Mate, listen, I've got a couple of kids, and I think the little girl, I've got something to look after her. She's got some parents that are going to look after her." And Tosser just said, "Well, good. If you didn't retire from interstate football, I would have told you to go and retire. You've got to go and look after your kids." So it was a lot of fun, and it's been fun watching her grow up.
Yeah. And you've both done a fantastic job with them. Wally, it's no secret that you do a great deal for charity, particularly those dedicated to disabled or dying children. Children just like 9-year-old Matthew Devons, whose dying wish was not only to meet you, but to be buried in one of your jerseys. But the visits for the family became too hard, didn't they? Those sorts of visits for all of you.
It's not something that I probably enjoy a lot because of you know exactly what's going to happen to the youngsters, but if you can give them some sort of assistance, well, you're only too happy to do it.
It's worth it, yeah. And of course it only makes you and Jackie appreciate just how precious your three beautiful children are. And here they are now, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Jamie Lee, Mitchell and Lincoln. Jamie Lee, you play football with Dad in the backyard too, don't you?
Yeah.
What's he like?
My dad isn't very good at football anymore. Last year when we were playing football in the backyard, he broke his toe when he tried to set me. But Dad is my hero. I love my dad.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's very embarrassing. You know that you're struggling long enough after you've been playing and retired for quite some time, but when your 11-year-old daughter can sidestep you and score tries in the backyard, you know you're too old, and she felt it was quite funny when I broke my toes. Sat there and had a bit of a giggle about it.
And you guys have got a couple of funny stories, haven't you, when you were little fellas, Lincoln, when you used to play tip in the backyard?
Yeah, when we were little, we used to play touch footy in the backyard, and Mitch always used to say, you know, you be Wally Lewis and I'll be Dad. Because we never really associated our dad with a famous football star. And one thing I really got confused about when I was little is if kids come up and ask for autographs, I used to get the impression that they couldn't write their own name on the paper, so they used to get Dad to write it for them.
And of course, Dad's never made a big fuss about himself, has he? Mum and Dad have never really big-noted themselves, have they?
Not at all, no. Dad, you know, you get even really, really close friends and I'll just call him the King and he'll, you know, tell them to go home until they can call him just Wally or something.
Is that right?
So, yeah, he doesn't like a big fuss about himself, but, you know, we give it to him every now and again.
Kids, thank you very much for coming in, kids. Appreciate it. Wally, very few athletes in their sport have had such a huge impact as you have and still remain as modest as you are. 301 first grade games, 30 state of origins. And while the debate will always continue as to just who is the all-time greatest in rugby league, your name will always be right at the very top of that list. Wally Lewis, this is your life.